Guardians, I've recently started using a Warlock build that's incredibly strong and off meta. I got inspiration from the wise David Johnson 7563 that once said, "But I want to use Nova Bomb." Well, David Johnson 7563, in this build, we use Nova Bomb, and oh boy do we use Nova Bomb. Let's get into it. There are a few different types of Nova Bomb builds. You have the Boss DPS type that uses Star Eater scales to boost its damage to the maximum. You have the backburner type that only takes it for its class synergies. Well, this build is the ad clearing type. Yes, you heard that right, ad clearing. With Skull of Dire Ahamkara, Nova Bomb will return 5% super energy per kill. So throw it at a large group of enemies to completely wipe them out, and returning up to 50% of your Nova Bomb. The other huge part of this is that scoring weapon kills while Devour is active gives an extra 1 to 4.5% super energy back per kill. So now we can use our Nova Bombs offensively to wipe out a ton of enemies, creating a ton of orbs for our team and giving back half of our super. Then slay out with strong weapons to quickly gain back the rest of the 50%. This is huge in hard content and content that doesn't have infinite spawns like Onslaught and Nightfalls, allowing you to clear activities quicker. This is the main concept of the build, but there are so many things that we add to improve upon and make this build even stronger. 2025, it's time to get a fresh start. New year, new PC. Whether you need to upgrade your current PC or you're transitioning from a console, there's no time like the present. That's why I've partnered with Apex Gaming PCs to bring you some top-notch gaming PCs. My PC lineup has AMD CPUs for multitasking to boost your productivity, letting you complete all your new year goals and will have you feeling like a brand new person. You can use code LUCKY to save 10% at checkout. With that being said, let's jump right back into the video. So let's dive into the subclass and break down how it works. Of course, for the super, we're going with Nova Bomb for its synergy with our exotic. And for the class ability, I'm taking Phoenix Dive for two reasons. Number one, it gives a quick burst of health. And second, because of its synergy with one of our aspects that I'll touch on in a minute. When it comes to the melee, my favorite melee is the Arcane Needle. Not only do you get 3 charges, but it offers a way to easily proc Unravel and add in more damage and give you some synergies with the rest of your build. As for the grenade, I'm bringing the Storm Grenade. It does good damage, but it also pairs nicely with one of our later fragments. When it comes to the aspects, the main one that we want to bring is Feed the Void. This makes it so that getting an ability kill will proc an enhanced version of Devour that will fully heal you and give back 10 to 40% grenade energy on kills. While this is already one of the strongest Warlock aspects around, it also pairs perfectly with our exotic. Now it's incredibly easy to proc Devour, and killing with weapons while you have Devour will give you back more super energy. The second aspect I like to take is Hellion. When paired with Phoenix Dive's short cooldown, you can constantly have a solar buddy at your side. This solar buddy scorches enemies on hits and will eventually cause ignitions. This is nice for generic gameplay, offering you another way to easily proc Devour, but it also means more damage in those boss DPS phases. As for the fragments, first and foremost, we want to bring Facet of Grace. Since we plan on bringing a strong exotic primary weapon that deals kinetic damage, this lets us feed back into our Transcendent energy quicker. And Transcendence will offer you more overall damage, quicker ability recharge, and even more damage resistance, so we want to get it back as quick as possible. Then I'm taking Facet of Dawn. Now our powered melee hits will grant us Radiant, and powered melee kills will give nearby allies Radiant for 5 seconds. This gives us an extra 25% weapon damage, but it also lets you stun barrier champions with ease. Then I bring Facet of Purpose. That way, whenever we pick up an Orb of Power, we gain a buff depending on our super. And with Nova Bomb, you get a Void Overshield, which is now incredibly strong, offering you 70% damage resistance while active. We create a ton of orbs from weapon kills and grenade kills, which will constantly proc this Void Overshield. As previously mentioned, we are taking the Storm Grenade, and that's because it pairs perfectly with our next fragment, Facet of Dominance. Now, arc grenades will jolt targets. This gives your normal grenades a way to stun overload champions and deal more overall damage. And since we're on Warlock, our prismatic grenades will also count as Void Grenades, meaning that it will also weaken enemies, making them take 15% more damage. And finally, I take Facet of Courage. With our grenades, super, and even our solar buddy all dealing light-based damage, we can now easily spread Unravel with one powered melee to let all of those abilities deal 10% more damage. And if you want to deal some damage, go ahead and whoopah, smash that like button. Okay, let's get back into the video. So what does this look like in action? Well, as with most encounters, you'll start off without your super. So you want to first proc Devour. You can do this by getting any ability kill. Grenades are the most consistent, but you can also use your melee or solar buddy. Once active, start going to town down with your weapons to quickly gain back that super energy. In the process, since Devour is active, you'll be healing yourself on every kill and generating a ton of grenade energy, so make sure to keep spamming those grenades. Remember, your primary weapon generates the most super energy from dealing damage, so this is your main option. Though if you need to use your special or heavy weapon to quickly kill enemies, then go for it. Once you get your super, feel free to chuck that Nova Bomb at a large group of enemies to refund upwards of 50% energy. Your primary kinetic weapon will generate a ton of transcendent energy, so feel free to pop that transcendence whenever you need or want to. And the last thing to note is that this build intrinsically stuns all 3 champions. I like to save a melee charge so that when you come across barrier champs, you can easily go Radiant and pop their shield. Both your regular and Prismatic Grenade will stun Overload champions, and your Solar Buddy along with your Prismatic Grenade will also stun Unstoppable champions. So let's talk about ways to improve the build. For stats, I like to shoot for 100 in resilience. Then I aim for as much discipline and strength as possible, with recovery being that fallback option. That way you can have a high uptime on all of your abilities. And when it comes to those armor mods, for the helmet, I first like to take a kinetic siphon mod to help create a ton of orbs, since our kinetic weapon is meant to be our main option. Then I bring ashes to assets, and I bring 2 of them. Devour will feed back a ton of grenade energy, so all of those grenades we're throwing will now feed back even more super energy on kills. As for the gauntlets, first I bring momentum transfer. That way we can consistently generate melee energy by dealing damage with our grenades. And then I bring firepower, so that we can create an orb by getting a grenade kill every 10 seconds. And as we mentioned before, the kinetic weapon is our main source of damage, so I bring a kinetic loader to help with its reload speed. And for the chest mods, I like to bring 3 resistance mods to take the least amount of damage possible. You mainly want to match these to the activity you're in, though a safe option is to bring an arc, solar, and void resistance, since these are the most common damage types in the game. As for the leg mods, I like to bring 2 kinetic weapon surge to boost our kinetic weapon damage by 17%, and the last mod you bring depends on the weapons that you bring. I mainly like to bring a void special and heavy weapon, so I bring a void weapon surge to boost these weapons by 10% damage. You mainly just want to match this to the special and heavy weapon that you have, or if you're bringing a different element heavy and special weapon, then you could just bring another kinetic weapon surge. As for the class mods, I first bring Reaper. Now, after we use our class ability, our next weapon kill will create an orb. And then I bring Powerful Attraction to pick up any nearby orbs on class ability usage. These 2 are really strong when you bring a mobile class ability like Phoenix Dive. And finally, I bring Outreach, so that whenever we use our class ability, we gain a bit of melee energy. In Act 3, we have a few new artifact perks that can really help this build out. But first, let's start with the basics. If you plan on bringing a grenade launcher, the concussive reload is great for weakening enemies whenever you break their shield and by dealing damage to champions and bosses. The same goes for kinetic impacts. If you bring a heavy grenade launcher, then this will add in more damage and another way to stun unstoppable champions. Curative Orbs offers you another way to create orbs by breaking a shield for the first time, and you can also boost this with a tonic so that when you pick up all those orbs, you'll get a small boost of health. You can also bring the new Frenzied Hunger, which gives a bonus to reload and handling while Devour is active, which is nearly constantly on this build. And if you're running a Void special and heavy weapon, then Void Renewal and Old God's Right can be a good combo. Now, while Devour is active, Void weapons have a chance to create a Void Breach. Picking up a Void Breach will now make your next Void weapon damage rain down seeking projectiles to help clear out even more enemies. When it comes to the weapons, we want to bring a strong kinetic primary weapon to help generate the most amount of super energy. My number 1 option is Kvostov, since it deals a ton of damage, and with its ricochet rounds, you can clear out a ton of weak enemies quickly. Plus, it massively benefits from all the orbs that you'll be making. But instead, you could take Outbreak Perfected, since it is a good backup option. That's because it deals decent damage to every enemy, and it's really good in that Grandmaster environment. I really recommend bringing an exotic in this slot, but if you choose not to, I'd go for something like Blast Furnace, Warden's Law, or even Chroma Rush if you have good damage perks on them. And for the energy slot, I like to bring a good ad clearing weapon. Velocity to Baton is the only area denial grenade launcher in this slot, and will help proc Weaken from this season's artifact. Though alternatively, you could go for a rocket assisted sidearm like the Solar Aberrant Action that can roll with Heal Clip and Incandescent, or the Arc Indebted Kindness, which can roll with Volt Shot. And finally, in the heavy slot, I like to use the slot for our boss damage, since we should be using our primary and special weapons for ad clearing. I love to match this weapon to the energy slot weapon to make the most out of our weapon surge. So with my void weapons, I bring Edge Transit with Envious Assassin and Bait and Switch. With my arc weapons, I bring the new Bittersweet, which can roll with Envious Arsenal and Bait and Switch. And with my solar weapons, I bring Apex Predator, which can roll with Reconstruction and Explosive Light. Well, there you have it, Guardians. I've just covered a build that lets you spam that Nova Bomb like crazy crazy. You're welcome, David Johnson 7563. But if you want to see a Warlock build that causes a ton of solar explosions, then go check out this video right here. But remember, mastering this build is only the beginning. Experiment with different combinations and tweak your loadout to suit your playstyle. If you found this video helpful or just enjoyed seeing a new perspective, feel free to like the video and comment down below on what you might change or how you'd improve the Ahamkara Mayhem build. Keep an eye out for future videos as we continue to explore the ever-evolving world of Destiny 2. Until then, may the threads of fate be ever in your favor. This is Lucky Mech, signing off. See you on the next adventure, Guardians.